Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for continuing to show up for me. I really appreciate you listening to my story and um, subscribing, liking, sharing. So, over the last 2, 3 weeks, been in this major change. And the whole reason I've been doing these videos is to, like Spirit said, you need to tell your story. Eventually, I want to put this in book form, to get out to more people. Of those of you that find it online here, you'll find it at the time that you'll need it. So I'm at the end of this journey. And I know I say it's a 5-year journey. To me, the 5 years was the actual physical movement from point A to point B. But back in 2017 is when I kind of was informed that I was going to be going through something, but I didn't know what they were talking about. I was not new to, no, I had just kind of started delving into spirituality since 2012, which was my first awakening. And over the next 5 years, it was kind of more and more learning more and more about all things spiritual. So I did a video not so long ago talking about the your personal years, your figuring out what year you're in, which I think is really, really important. The thing is, when I look back now and I'm putting all the pieces together, it kind of everything makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Um, so back in 2017, which was my personal year one, is when my father in spirit came through a medium and said that, you have these abilities, you need to go back to psychic school, and, you know, they had been suppressed to bring them out again. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is great. This is something I know comes through my grandmother's line on my mother's side. And I'm thinking that's it, I'm going to, start doing readings for people and eventually became a Reiki Master. I'm going to do healings, and that's going to be it. My father had also told me you're going to be leaving your Wall Street job. So I'm like, how's that going to happen? Like, I need that money. I forgot to time this, so hopefully I don't go too long. And I forget what I was saying now. Um, it's funny. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but it's like I'm at the end of this 9 years and like looking up and like all of a sudden like I've aged 9 years and like things are like oh my goodness, like what happened? Like where did those 9 years go? Anyway, oh, that I was going to leave my Wall Street job, and that I thought I was going to do spiritual work, do readings, do Reiki healing, stuff like that. So when I left my Wall Street job in 2019, that's what I started doing. Actually, also became a certified yoga instructor right after I stopped working. Wanted to incorporate that in all things spiritual. And then 2020, of course, we all know what happened. And everything fell apart. So I'm like, what the heck? But the thing was, each one of my grandparents, along with my father, my son who is in spirit, I lost my son when he was 19 years old, um, all came through at some point. Even my great grandmother on my father's side came through. And they all informed me that I was going to be going through something, but I didn't understand what that was. I didn't quite, like the reader at the time. She says, I can't really figure out what this is, but it's like this elevation type of thing. I'm like, okay. And I know a long time ago I had a reading and she had said, you're going to have a promotion. You're getting a promotion. So I thought it was like in my job or something. Anyway, I wanted to go back. I'm going to have the link in the description box as far as figuring out what your personal year is. But I had gone through my own years and kind of giving you what to expect in each year as you go through your ascension. Um, in around 2018, which was my year two, someone came to me who was a reader. I was doing a practice reading with some other people in a room. As soon as he walked through the door, he made like a beeline for me. And he says, I have to do a reading for you. And I'm like, okay. And what he said, I have to tell you, you're going to be doing work with homeless women. I'm like, okay, what does that mean, you know? And at the time, I had like an abundance of clothes working on Wall Street, just so much stuff. So I figured, okay, let me take a lot of stuff I'm not using, I'll never use, things that have just been piled up. And I say, one day I'm going to get into this. And I ended up filling up like 9 garbage bags, big black garbage bags with clothes and shoes and handbags and stuff. And I took it over to homeless shelter and they were just like floored, like, oh my goodness, this stuff, like it was like, good quality stuff. And but I wanted to make sure like it went to the women that needed it. I didn't want like employees or anybody just taking it. So I was really kind of um, direct with the director there to say, make sure this goes to the women. Anyway, long story short, they ended up like they showed me a week later. I went back and they had it all lined up on rails and in a locked room so that the women could come in and go through the pieces and like because like I had suits I wore to work every day and skirt suits and pantsuits and nice handbag, just really really nice stuff. Don't miss that at all. Don't miss that. But I anyway, getting back to figuring out your personal year, understand that we all have something different that we're going to be doing. For me, my path was to eventually do work with homeless women. In order, I had never been homeless before, so I didn't even know the first place to start. I figured donating some clothes was what I was supposed to do, not understanding that the universe was sending me on this whole different path um, to have the experience. That's the thing. I never had that experience. And you can't be an advocate for something if you haven't really had that experience. Um, So take that in consideration. Also, look back at your whole life, what your skills are. So for me, I had worked, after I had my son, I had worked at a company doing customer service, and it was in within part time, so then I could go and pick him up from school and things. And eventually, they were going to hire a whole bunch of customer service representatives. So they sent me and another guy from the office, and there were some other people, employees from other locations around the United States, sent us all to Jacksonville to do a trainer session. I was so shy and I had never done any public speaking, and this was kind of pushing me to learn how to do public speaking and kind of like forced into it. So now all of a sudden I'm in front of a class of 30 people for 6 weeks and teaching them all skills of customer service, our computer system, what they needed to know. I worked for a healthcare company at the time. And for 6 weeks, standing and teaching 30 different people all day, full time. So there goes my experience as far as teaching, public speaking, um, putting things together too, because you're putting together a curriculum. And my college degree is in finance and major in accounting. So later on, um, I took those skills and that's was my basis of my work after that. I was kind of tired of healthcare. Healthcare, if you worked in insurance and healthcare previously, it's so hard when um, you're dealing with people who, have cancer, illnesses, or something like that, and then we kind of deny their claims. And that really got to me big time as far as that. Uh, Anyway, just looking back I'm probably going to do another video, separate this one, and then go through those steps as far as preparing, um, uh, understanding your path. And, well, I'll do it now. Okay, so year one, my first year, consider that new beginnings. Okay, this is kind of the start before everything kind of goes into place. Your second year is kind of, I say, a float year because nothing really happened 2018. Nothing really too much happened in that year. It was still kind of things were new. I was learning my psychic skills, so forth. Year three, it was kind of this prep that was 2022. No, that's not right. I'm sorry, 2017, 18, 19. That's when I left my job, and it was kind of a preparation for what was to come. Leaving my job, what I thought I was going to be work I was going to be doing, but the universe was setting me up so that I could eventually go on to this journey. Um, Year four, which was 2020, was this build up to this change. I had COVID. Bear with me 1 second, okay? Sorry about that. Um, Year four was when the pandemic had hit. I moved to New Jersey. There was like this build up for this change to happen. I ended up losing everything. I didn't understand what was happening. Um, all the money I had kind of put to the side to start this business, this yoga studio business, that was ended up being all used up. I ended up having no money and was staying with a family member who was treating me absolutely horrible. This went into 2021. Kind of this realization that you're kind of stuck. The universe is holding you in place until you're like ready to kind of accept that things are changing. Year five usually talks about change is when there's that realization. And year six is kind of like this acceptance, like, okay, something's going on here. And I have to accept my plight and kind of just go with the flow, even though I was still struggling to get out of this. Year seven is after accepting, now it's implementing this change. Your whole life is changing. What I once knew was no longer um, my life that I once had was totally ending. I was still trying to grasp that back, but thinking that things would go back to normal eventually, but they never did. Year 8 is kind of when you're in the thick of that change. Like the universe is having you on this path. That's when I had moved last year from New York to Maine. And so it's this huge change. Year 9 is that the final, where I'm at now, these final changes of the final stages of the change, and who you once were is totally gone. And like I always say, you're having two lives within one lifetime. You're totally now in that second life. So I hope that all makes sense. I'm going to leave the link below for you to figure out what personal year you're in now, which I think is going to be really helpful for you going forward. Okay. Um, Again, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.